Good evening, and thank you for joining tonight's telephone town hall, hosted by the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners. I'm Roger, and I'll be your moderator tonight as we have a conversation with Commissioners Tracy Kraft-Tharp, Andy Kerr, and Leslie Dahlkemper about COVID-19 strategic planning, the 2022 county budget, and the new stimulus dollars for Jeffco from the American Rescue Plan. Before we begin, I want to take just a moment to tell you about the format for tonight's interactive call. We realize that some on the call just want to listen, and that's perfectly fine. But for those of you that do want to ask a question, please press *3 on your phone. You'll be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information. Once the operator notes your information, you'll be returned to the call and can listen to the conversation until you are called upon. So go ahead and press *3 now if you already know your question, and this is the same process to follow throughout the call. If you hear something that generates a question, press *3. Since we want to answer as many questions as possible, we'll limit all callers to just one question, and when it's your turn, I'll call your name and ask you to repeat the question for our live audience. We'll take just a moment now for each commissioner to give a short introduction before we jump into our topics. First, I would like to turn over to Commissioner and Chair of the Board, Leslie Dahlkemper. Commissioner, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Roger, and welcome to tonight's Town Hall. I'm Leslie Dahlkemper, and I represent District 3, or South Jeffco. It includes Littleton, Morrison, Conifer, and portions of Lakewood and Evergreen. Before I served on the Board of County Commissioners, I worked as a journalist, I owned a small business, and I served in senior executive roles in both the nonprofit and private sectors. Our family has called Jeffco home for more than 25 years, and I have to tell you that it's a real honor to serve as your county commissioner. We're here tonight to update you on COVID-19, our strategic plan, the county budget, and American Rescue Plan funding. And we will leave plenty of time for your questions so we can hear directly from you. Between each of those topics I mentioned, we'll take your questions on those issues, and we'll have a little time a little later to answer any other questions you may have. If you have a question or a comment, please press *3 now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Next is Commissioner Andy Kerr. Commissioner, before we get to some of those questions, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Roger. I'm Andy Kerr, and I represent District 2, which includes most of Lakewood, Idledale, parts of Evergreen, El Rancho, Golden, most of Wheat Ridge, and Edgewater. And I'm a longtime Jeffco social studies teacher. I served in the state legislature for 12 years, and I have lived here in Jeffco for over 40 years now. And my wife and I are raising our 3 kids right here in Jefferson County, close to where we grew up. It's great to be here. In addition to the issues Commissioner Dahlkemper mentioned, we're working closely with Jefferson County Public Health on COVID-19. And you can find regular updates on this topic on our website at www.jeffco.us. We want to hear from you, so please press *3 to ask a question.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kerr. Finally, we have Commissioner Tracy Kraft-Tharp. Commissioner Kraft-Tharp, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Roger. Isn't a town meeting a great thing to do on a stormy night? This is like the perfect thing, cuddle up and do a town meeting on the phone. I'm Tracy Kraft-Tharp, and I am from District 1, which is the north area of Jefferson County. Prior to being elected as a Jeffco Commissioner, I worked at Family Tree, running the Battered Women's Shelter and the Adolescent Crisis Shelter. Had my own small business working with small businesses and nonprofits, and then I was in the state legislature for 8 years. So I'm very pleased to be working with everybody here at Jefferson County and serving the county. So back to our town meeting. We want to hear everyone's questions on these topics, and I see some questions starting to come in, which is pretty exciting. We have a lot of resources here, experts, to help us with those questions, including our Executive Director of Jefferson County Public Health, Dr. Don Comstock, our County Manager, Don Davis, our County Attorney, Kim Sorrells, Chief Financial Office, Dr. Stephanie Corbo, the Budget Manager, Dan Conway, our Human Services Director, Mary Berg, and our Community and Workforce Development Director, Kat Douglas. And remember, press *3 anytime to ask a question. Thanks, Roger.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. So without further delay, Commissioner Dahlkemper will start with our first topic, latest updates on COVID-19 in Jefferson County. Commissioner, go ahead.
Great. Thanks so much, Roger. And thanks again to everyone joining us tonight. Dr. Dawn Comstock is the Executive Director of Jeffco Public Health, and she is with us tonight to share more about COVID-19. And I see we have a number of COVID-19 related questions that are coming in from callers. As many of you know, we just moved into level clear and rescinded our local mask order to align with the states. So what does that mean for Jefferson County? What's the latest on COVID case counts and vaccination numbers? And what resources are available for our community? Dr. Comstock has some of the answers to those questions and more. Dr. Comstock?
Thank you, Commissioner Dahlkemper. I'll start with a quick update of our COVID-19 numbers here in Jefferson County. As of May 16th, yesterday, these are the most up-to-date numbers we have, our 7-day case incidence of COVID-19 in Jefferson County is 664 new cases, or 113.9 cases per 100,000 people. That's a sharp decline over the rate that we have seen over the last few weeks. Overall, we have begun to see a decline in COVID-19. However, there is still widespread community transmission, and most of our cases recently have been among middle and high school-aged young people. Our 7-day average test positivity rate is down to 3.7%, and our 14-day average hospitalization rate is 1.53 hospitalizations per 100,000 people. Jefferson County, along with other Metro Denver counties, rescinded its countywide mask order as of Saturday, May 15th. Now residents can follow the more relaxed mask requirements from the state of Colorado. Under those new state requirements, fully vaccinated individuals may go without a mask in most settings unless the governor's executive mask order outlines a specific setting that still requires masking. For example, all unvaccinated individuals and those ages 12 and older who are not yet fully vaccinated must continue to wear a mask in certain high-risk settings, including congregate care facilities, prisons, jails, Colorado DMV offices, and emergency medical and other healthcare settings. Masks are also still required in schools and childcare settings, including extracurricular activities, although the governor's order does indicate individuals who are fully vaccinated in a classroom or cohort may remove their mask if their teacher or caregiver has provided proof of vaccination to their employer. New CDC guidelines released on Saturday, though, do recommend that all schools continue current COVID-19 prevention strategies, including masking, for the remainder of this school year. Masks are also required during all travel on public transit per CDC requirements. Jefferson County, along with other Metro Denver counties, also moved to level clear as of yesterday, May 16th. In level clear, businesses may operate at 100% capacity with no mitigation requirements, except for any of those put in place by the state of Colorado or the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. Any business may decide to implement rules to protect their employees or patrons that are more strict. For example, any business may continue to require mask wearing. Jefferson County Public Health supports the rights of those businesses and asks all, out of courtesy and respect, to follow each individual business's rules. During the observation period that we're in level clear, which runs through August 15th, JCPH will closely monitor hospitalizations, a health metric which is indicative of severity of COVID-19 infections. By late May, I do expect vaccination coverage should be sufficient to begin to really drive down COVID-19 transmission in Jeffco. However, JCPH can apply capacity limits and mitigation requirements if those hospitalization rates that we're monitoring increase. Speaking of vaccinations, another priority area is to make sure everyone who is eligible can get a free, safe, effective vaccine. Widespread vaccination coverage is our path to staying fully open, and now getting a vaccine is even more convenient than ever, with vaccines available widely across the county, no appointments needed. I'm also very happy to share that now everyone ages 12 and up can be vaccinated, with the FDA's recent approval and CDC's green light for the use of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine with adolescents aged 12 through 15. Jefferson County has done a great job with vaccination coverage. To date, a total of 606,435 vaccines have been administered here in Jeffco. More than 56% of the people in Jeffco who are eligible are fully vaccinated, and another 10.3% have received at least one dose of their 2-dose vaccines. You can sign up for Jefferson County Public Health vaccination clinic appointments or appointments for vaccination clinics we host with our partners on our JCPH website. Visit www.jeffco.us/vaccine sign-up. As more people receive their vaccine and return to higher levels of activity, we may continue to see COVID-19 spreading in our community. So it's important to remember you still need to be tested for COVID-19 if you show any symptoms or if you've been exposed to someone who has tested positive for the virus. For testing sites in Jeffco, please visit www.jeffco.us/testing. And you can always find the latest information on Jeffco cases, hospitalization, vaccination rates, and more at the JCPH website, www.jeffco.us/COVID. Once there, select the case summary page. We're watching our numbers closely, as well as trends and potential spikes, and we will continue to update our community. I know this has been a long road with many changes, and we at JCPH are incredibly grateful to our community for your flexibility and resilience.
All right, thank you very much. Lots of good information there. We appreciate it. Let's take some questions about this topic. As a reminder, you can participate in the discussion by pressing *3 on your telephone. You will be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information and get you in the queue. Again, that is *3 on your phone to ask a question. And we're going to start out with Mike. Mike, go ahead. You're live.
Hi. Just had a question about people that are fully vaccinated versus the people that decide that they ain't going to get the vaccination. They're going to go unmasked anywhere they want because they don't believe in vaccinations. What is the county and the state going to do about that to resolve that?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That's a very good question. Unfortunately, one thing that some people don't recognize is that when you make decisions for yourself, when we're talking about a highly communicable upper respiratory disease like COVID, you're also making decisions for those around you. That's one reason why we're so adamant that everybody that is eligible to be vaccinated should get vaccinated, because that vaccine doesn't just protect you, it also protects your loved ones, it protects all of our community members, and it protects individuals who are unable to be vaccinated. Personally, I have a niece who was born with a heart condition and had to have a heart transplant in her first year of life. So she's ineligible to be vaccinated. So everyone who refuses vaccination is not only making that decision for themselves, they're also putting my niece at risk. So that's where we really encourage everyone to be vaccinated. And if someone is not vaccinated, if you make that decision for yourself that you are not vaccinated, then the request at this point is that you wear a mask when you are in public, so that you are being respectful of everyone else's health, and you're lessening the likelihood that you can transmit COVID to others.
All right, let's go to Charles next. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, this is Charles. I appreciate you taking my phone call. In response to Mike's question, he was asking about people who are not vaccinated and that don't want to be vaccinated. What is the repercussion of those who don't want to be vaccinated because they're concerned about the FDA not approving the vaccination because it is not a vaccination, it is an experimental gene therapy? What's Jefferson County going to do to those who are not choosing to be vaccinated? And Mike is kind of a little pissy little boy. So what is, is it like a kind of like a communist takeover, or what is this? I don't understand those who don't want to be vaccinated. What's the big deal?
Yeah, hi, Charles. So I respect everybody's opinion and everybody's stance. It is my job to provide the scientific evidence, though, and the current COVID-19 vaccines that are eligible for individuals in Jefferson County to take have actually all been approved by the FDA through what's called an EAU, or an emergency use authorization. It's EUA, an emergency use authorization. This means that those vaccines have been rigorously tested in clinical trials. They have been reviewed by scientists at the FDA as well as external scientific groups, and they have been approved for this use. Further, these vaccinations have now been taken by millions and millions and millions of people, both here in the United States and around the world. And side effects and adverse events are very, very closely being monitored. I think the evidence of that was when the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was halted momentarily after an incredibly small number of severe side effects were noted. So I can wholeheartedly say that these vaccines are safe. Pfizer has already put in the required paperwork to get full FDA approval, and I do expect that Pfizer and the other two vaccines will receive full FDA approval, not just the emergency use authorization approval, within the coming months, definitely within the next year. So I understand that there's a lot of misinformation about these vaccines and their safety out there. I can truly tell everyone who's listening today that these vaccines do have FDA emergency use authorization approval. They are very safe, and they are incredibly effective. I personally am vaccinated, my wife is vaccinated, and all of our nieces and nephews who are of age and eligible have all been vaccinated. If I didn't believe in these vaccines, I wouldn't ask my own family to take them. If I ask my own family to take them, I hope you can trust me. If you don't trust the science, you can at least trust me that if I ask my family to take it, it should be safe enough for your family as well.
All right, let's go to Lucinda next. Go ahead.
Yes, I think she answered my question. I was wondering where we are required to wear a mask now. So it'd be on transportation and businesses that are just asking for you. Otherwise, I'm free to go everywhere if I'm fully vaccinated.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Lucinda. Thank you. I know it is a little confusing and things have changed rapidly over the last few days as some newer studies have come out and been reviewed. You are correct. There are a very small number of places where fully vaccinated individuals are still required to wear a mask. If you're in a healthcare setting, an emergency room or other healthcare setting, you're still going to be required to wear a mask. If you're in a K through 12 or a child care setting, with just a very few exceptions, you're still going to be required to wear a mask. If you're in a congregate setting like a jail or a prison, if you're visiting someone, or if you're going to the DMV, if you need to go renew your license or pick up a new license plate, you'll be required to wear a mask there. Again, any individual business, though, may ask you to wear a mask. I fully respect every business's right to do so, and I ask everyone in Jefferson County to please be respectful of those businesses, and if they ask you to put a mask on, put a mask on. It's just common courtesy and respect. So for the next little while here, I'm asking everyone to, if you're fully vaccinated, just have that mask in your pocket And if someone asks you to put it on, out of courtesy and respect, put it on. Thank you for that question, Lucinda.
All right, let's go to Mike next. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I had a question about, I'm fully vaccinated. I have COPD, emphysema, bronchitis, asthma, and I had no side effects. I also have AFib, and I don't understand why people are so afraid of something that is approved to get vaccinated.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. I agree. I think there is a lot of misunderstanding about the science on COVID, and unfortunately, some of it has become a little bit politicized. I agree with you 100%. The vaccine is clearly safe and highly effective, and I'm so happy to hear that with your pre-existing conditions that you went out and you got vaccinated to help protect yourself. So thank you so much for doing that. I really do appreciate that, and it's another good reminder that not everyone is eligible to be vaccinated yet. So even if you're on the fence just a little bit, please go out and get vaccinated. Even if you don't think you need it to protect yourself, consider other people like Mike who have pre-existing conditions, and some of those individuals, unlike Mike, might not even be eligible to get vaccinated because of some medical contraindication. And your going out and get vaccinated helps protect them as well. But I'm glad you got vaccinated, Mike. Good job. Thank you.
All right, T. Sue, you're next. Go ahead. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Yes, this is Tai Sue. Can you hear me?
I can, Tai Sue. Hello.
Yes, I have a question. For churchgoers who are fully vaccinated, do we have to be 6 feet apart and wear a mask in the church?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Tai Sue. We don't have any requirements here in Jefferson County in terms of our public health orders. Now that we're in level clear, the Jefferson County Public Health Order doesn't have any restrictions based on capacity. However, I'm not sure how big your church is, so you should take a quick glance at the governor's executive order, the state order. There are still a few restrictions in place for very large indoor gatherings. So if your church can seat over 100 people or over 500 people, then there are a few different restrictions. But if your church is smaller, at this point, no, there is no longer a 6-foot distancing restriction. Fully vaccinated people should feel comfortable being able to be closer. Again, any individuals who are not vaccinated in your church, though, are still at risk. And to fully protect them, if you have a large number of unvaccinated people in your church, then I would recommend that everyone stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask just to protect those people who are not yet vaccinated, but it is no longer a requirement.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Jen next. Jen, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Jen, I can.
Hi. Yes, mine is a legal business question about mask wearing. Can businesses legally require their employees to be vaccinated?
That's a really good question, Jen. And you know what? I am going to send you over to Kim Sorrells, our county attorney, to answer that, since that's a legal question, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you.
Kim, you want to take that one?
Kim, do you want to?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So from a legal perspective, different types of employers have different rights. So I can't speak to all employers. But yes, under certain circumstances, they can require vaccines of their employees.
No schools are. But what about retailers?
But, okay, so when you say certain, how about small mom and pop like retailer and restaurant?
So again, I mean, I can't give legal advice to all of the different businesses. It was my understanding that your question was the legality of businesses enforcing the mask order, which is a very different question from the legality of enforcing the mask order. Businesses can require you to wear a mask when entering, even if there is no public health order in place, because they can use trespass. If you refuse to wear a mask on their property, they can contact the sheriff's office and report a trespass and ask that you be escorted from the property.
All right, thank you very much for that. Let's switch topics now. I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Andy Kerr to talk a little bit about the strategic plan the county is working on and how that informs the county budget. Commissioner?
Thank you, Roger. And I'm happy to move us into this next part of the conversation about the strategic plan and really how it informs our budgeting process. So first, our thanks to the Colorado Congressional Delegation and others for their proactive work to approve funds that will help our community recover from COVID-19 and move forward. Jefferson County has been operating in a really tight financial environment over the last several years, which I'm sure many of you have heard about. And while we still face budget challenges, the CARES Act funds from last year and then dollars from the American Rescue Plan will help to provide some much needed COVID relief for our community. So we also want to thank members of our community who participated in our strategic planning focus groups and also shared their input on early versions of the strategic plan. And I'm happy to bring in Dr. Stephanie Corbo, the Chief Financial Officer for Jefferson County, to tell us a little more about the strategic plan and budgeting process. So Dr. Corbo.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr. Just for a little background, a strategic plan serves to set priorities and focus energy and resources to ensure that we're working toward common goals for the betterment of the county. This plan also keeps the county accountable for measurable outcomes and results. And we'll track that progress so we can adapt our direction in response to ever-changing environments. This work is especially timely because we and the rest of the world are adjusting to new COVID norms and expectations. We're working to become even more efficient and effective. And as we begin the work on our 2022 budget, we'll use our strategic plan objectives to guide the use of our funds. Additionally, we will have federal stimulus dollars to provide services and funds to those that were impacted by COVID. We will leverage this assistance to get the Jeffco economy not only back up and running, but sustainable. We know we have to do more with less while still delivering the needed and required services to our community. So going through this strategic planning process now and prioritizing those strategic outcomes will help us better align those federal funds so that we can have a focused intent and the strategy with which to drive our budget. I'll go ahead and send it back to you, Roger, so we can take some questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's get back to questions now. And we're going to go first to Neil. Go ahead, Neil.
Yes, I'd like to know, is Jefferson County planning a tax increase that would have to be submitted to the voters in a ballot question for 2021 or 2022?
Thank you, Neil. This is Stephanie Corbo here. So the county is not currently planning on an increase in property taxes for the voters right now. And if we do plan to do that, such an increase would be considered in the future and would be announced through the ballot initiative for Jeffco voters.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's next to Lynette. Lynette, go ahead.
Checks. I've never received one. I was a caregiver, and I never got paid because I took care of my family, my mother and my mother-in-law, and they both have passed on now. And I was wondering how I could go about getting some of that stimulus money because I've not gotten none.
Hi, Lynette. This is Stephanie Corbo here as CFO. So the stimulus funds actually come directly from the IRS, and I'm not sure if you have pen and paper, but if you do visit, okay, great. So if you want to visit their website, it's www.irs.gov/coronavirus/get-my-payment. I'll also give you a phone number that we have here so that you can contact them. It's 1-800-919-9835.
All right, thank you. Let's go next. Sybil. Is that right? Sybil next? Go ahead.
Hello?
Hi, Sybil. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering what the mask situation will be for school next year. Kids are very low at being hospitalized or dying from COVID. I'm not talking about cases. And we are seeing a mental health crisis with our kids so bad that urgent care at Children's Hospital says it's the second leading cause of death is suicide. And so all of these restrictions, the social distancing, not allowed to go to school, masking, all the other nonsense, is affecting our children's mental health. And as a parent, I'm not okay with this. Me and hundreds of other parents have formed a group. We're going to get an attorney, and you guys are going to be hearing from our attorney because we're not doing this next year. We're not having any masks next year. We're not having any social distancing. No cleaning that's cutting into academic time, no cohorts, none of it. So we're over it. And our kids are being the ones that are being affected. And if you're vulnerable, you can either get a vaccine or you can stay home. Because we're done. People that are vulnerable can protect themselves with a vaccine or they can stay home. But our children are suffering so much that they're asking 8-year-olds if they're going to commit suicide.
Sybil, I'm going to jump in and let Dr. Comstock address that. Of course, the schools, I think, are dictated. It's a state order. But Dr. Comstock, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Sybil. I understand your frustration, and trust me, I've heard from a lot of parents. I will reiterate what was just said, that all of the school regulations regarding cohorting, regarding quarantining, regarding wearing masks, distancing in the schools, all of those are actually state regulations. And the vast majority of those state regulations, Colorado is following CDC strong recommendations, if not CDC regulations. So I understand your frustration. Just to be very, very blunt, in order to have in-person education safely, we have to address viral mitigation needs. Right now, across Colorado and here in Jefferson County, the highest incidence rates are in our middle and high school students. And unfortunately, the most prevalent variant is now the UK variant, which, although severe cases are still relatively low, this UK variant does affect younger people more severely than the other variants did. The one other problem with saying that kids don't get that sick, so we don't care if they get infected, two problems with this is, I'm sure that as a mother you can agree and you can understand if it was your child that was the one who did have a very severe infection, ended up in the hospital on the ventilator, that it would be different than if your child has a very mild infection. But more importantly, until we get vaccination coverage up to the point where our entire community can be infected, we have to remember that those school children that get infected, the infection doesn't stay within the school buildings. When they go home infected, they expose the rest of the family. When they go to grocery stores, they expose people in the grocery store. Unless your child is only going to school and only coming home and everyone else in your family has been vaccinated, then if they are infected, they can transmit that infection to others. Most people are eligible to get vaccinated, you're right, but not everyone is. So I understand the frustration. We LPHA directors have been in very close contact with CDPHE, the State Health Department, particularly over the last few weeks, really trying to find a better balance between school safety from a viral mitigation perspective and reasonableness in terms of not interrupting school activities, not interrupting that school experience. So I do expect that there are going to be a great many changes in the state guidelines for next fall. They have heard us. They have definitely heard you parents. There will be changes, for example, to definitions of a cohort, definitions of an outbreak, things like that. But there will still be definitely some quarantining, some isolation when it is considered a very large public health concern of infection to others. We're working hard to try to find a balance. We understand the need to find that balance, but we can't just get rid of all viral mitigation strategies until all kids can be vaccinated.
All right, let's hear from Connie next. Go ahead, Connie.
I just listened to the lady, and I am with her. Because, listen, guys, if it was that dangerous, that's supposed to be President Joe Biden, then open the doors to other countries to come. They not vaccinated, they came. And if it was so dangerous, why she still let it be open? So stop with this insane, guys. And all of these homeless people, what are we doing? Are they getting sick? What is the percentage of all these homeless people? There's more homeless people in this country than ever. And what are you guys doing? How many of them are getting sick? So you know what? Science said that's okay, I guess. I don't know. Can somebody answer that question? I'm with that lady. I'm sorry. I feel so sad for her, for her kids. Go ahead.
Hi, Connie. Thank you for your comments and your questions tonight. And this is Mary Berg, and I'm our Human Services Director in Jefferson County. And the county has a rather robust effort that we call Heading Home that addresses individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness. Our Heading Home Committee has a number of community leaders in both our cities and our county, nonprofits, law enforcement, public health, and they've created an action plan that includes a team of navigators to help support those who are experiencing homelessness find the right resources and services, including opportunities to be vaccinated, as well as having safe places to quarantine if they have acquired the coronavirus. You can find more information about our Heading Home efforts at www.headinghomejeffco.com. Thank you.
All right. Great question so far, but let's take a minute and turn it over to Commissioner Tracy Kraft-Tharp to introduce our final panelist and topic. Commissioner, go ahead.
Thank you, Roger, and to everyone on our call. I'm so glad you could spend this rainy night with us to participate in our conversation. We know that times have been incredibly difficult for everyone, and that there's a greater need for resources right now as record numbers of people in our county are accessing our services. You heard Commissioner Kerr and Dr. Corbo mention the American Rescue Plan funds. We're making a plan for using and distributing those dollars. And Dr. Corbo, could you share a little more for us?
Thank you, Commissioner Kraft-Tharp. So while the details about how the funds can be used were just released and are still being worked out, we do know that Jeffco will receive about $113 million. Half of that, or $56.5 million, will be sent to us in the coming months, and the remaining will be sent out in 2022. All of the cities in the county will receive their funding from either the federal government or the state. We do expect that the guidelines will allow for broad use of these funds in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency and its negative economic impacts. Some of these areas include providing assistance to households, small businesses and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. Another area is by providing premium pay to employers that have eligible workers who perform essential work. Also, by funding federal government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue caused by the pandemic, and by making necessary investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Some rules around this is that the county must obligate these funds by December of 2024, and final spending must happen by the end of 2026. Our goal is to strategically distribute these funds to spur economic recovery and provide for the health and well-being of our Jeffco community. To learn more, please visit www.jeffco.us/ARPA. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Roger, so we can take some more questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Giroux. One more reminder that you can participate in the discussion and ask a question by pressing *3 on your phone. You'll be transferred to an operator who will take down your information and will get you in the queue. So *3 to ask a question. And we're going to go to Deanna next. Go right ahead.
Hi, I think my question was answered, but I do want to applaud the lady that had talked about her children and the mask wearing at school. I really think that the systemic issues of, suicide in our community, that's been a big deal here even before COVID. And I really think as leaders, you need to listen to the people. That's very, very important. And on the other side, the other front, I've decided to move to Florida because I really, really like Governor DeSantis and what he's doing for their community, for their economy, and for their ability to get back to business and really do the business of the people. So I think we, the people, are really getting together and speaking out, and you're going to see a lot more of that. So be on notice. Thanks.
Hey, Roger, if I could just jump in and answer Deanna's original question about the CARES Act. We heard Dr. Corbo talk about the American Rescue Plan, and Jefferson County commissioners, along with our county staff, budget team, county manager, and others, worked very closely over the last year during the pandemic to strategically and thoughtfully spend those dollars in areas to help with COVID response and recovery. Our total primary award plus interest of CARES Act dollars, which had to be allocated and spent by the end of last year, was $101.8 million. Just some quick highlights: 660 grants went to businesses impacted by COVID-19. Dollars also helped food pantries serve 389% more families than last year. And over 23,000 masks and 90,000 gloves were provided to businesses. We also allocated dollars to Jeffco Public Schools to ensure that their grab-and-go summer lunch meals were not cut in half at more than $234,000. And really appreciate the work with our chamber leaders, our nonprofit leaders, and others who are working closely with us during COVID response and recovery. Thanks, Roger.
You betcha. Thank you. Let's go to Kelly next. Kelly, you're live. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Great. My question was regarding the strategic plan, and I was just curious to learn more about how climate change is addressed in it. Thank you.
Great. This is Commissioner Andy Kerr, and I am our liaison to our climate action plan that we're putting in place through a sustainability commission that was appointed last year. And so the strategic plan is in process of being developed as we've had input from our staff and from community members and organizations as we put it together. But sustainability is definitely a part of that strategic plan. Hopefully by the end of the year, we will have our climate action plan in place. We do have a sustainability coordinator that works for Jefferson County. And one of the big things that people ask about is how sustainable is a position like that. And through the work that our sustainability manager has done is we are estimating that he is saving the county over $600,000 a year through many of the programs that he has implemented in the last few years that he has been working. We really want to leverage those actions, those programs, and go countywide beyond the Jefferson County as a business itself, but to go countywide throughout all of our businesses and residences and give people the tools so that they can make their homes, their businesses, and their daily lives as efficient as possible, and not only save themselves money, but also be taking action to reverse the climate change that is impacting all of us.
Thank you, Andy. Let's hear from John next. Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is John LaCroix. I live in Arvada near Old Town. I've lived in Jeffco for 2 years, Colorado for 10. I am the owner and operator of the Human Potential Running Series and have worked directly with Jefferson County Open Space for the better part of the last 10 years that I've been here. And over the last few years, Jefferson County Open Space seems to have shifted their role as a land management agency to more of a law enforcement role. Over the last 3 to 4 years, Jeffco Open Space has systematically removed special events from ability to use open space trails for events like running and biking races. While I certainly understand the major increases in Jeffco Park usage over the last year and beyond, the ways in which Jeffco Open Space and Mountain Parks has removed events from using parks lacks any and all integrity. Rather than working with event organizers in a respectful way and removing events, they have instead operated in a threatening way, making event organization beyond frustrating so that the special events are instead pushed out or quit. Make no mistake, the way in which Jeffco has removed special events from Jeffco lands directly impacts, one, the much-needed revenue Jeffco Open Space relies on to help fund.
I'm going to jump in. Sorry, John, I'm jumping in so that Leslie, perhaps they can, I think they've got the gist of your question and concern. Director Dahlkamper, do you want to address that?
Sure. Thanks so much, Roger. And John, thank you very much for taking the time to share your concerns about the intersection between Jeffco Open Space, parks, and events. And we know that those events are important to our community. One of the things that we've seen during the last year over the pandemic is a 50% increase in park usage. I just need to take a quick moment to give a huge shout out to our Jeffco Open Space team and our rangers who have worked very closely with our community to ensure that we continue to protect our wildlife, our plant communities, as well as our trails during what was an incredibly challenging time as we see visitation increase. Just a quick note to everyone, we encourage you to be kind and courteous to one another. Follow those regulations because they really do help keep our parks in excellent shape. As we always like to say, leave them better than when you found them. And John, we will absolutely keep in mind those issues that you raised about events as well. We know that closing parks to events, some would argue, also restrict the free and open access to all community members, but there's a balance, and we've got to work through that, and really appreciate you calling in tonight with your concerns. Thanks so much.
All right, let's hear from Nancy next. Go right ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
You bet. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling because I'm concerned about our property taxes. My husband and I were so happy to have just paid off of our house last year after 40 years of marriage. So it was a huge accomplishment for us, and we hope to stay here until we die. Our taxes only went up about $40 this year, but that amount isn't working with our retirement plan. He got COVID last March, had a bad case of it. He was out of work for 3 months. When he went back to work, his income was 25% less than what it had been pre-COVID. So our income is decreasing while it seems like our property taxes are going up, and we want to stay in our home. So our concern is, could you give us a clear idea of how much our taxes can potentially go up without a voter approval of tax increase?
Roger, I can jump in, and I may phone a friend too and ask County Attorney Kim Sorrells or our County Manager Don Davis to join us as well on this particular question. Nancy, I saw your question in the queue, and I know that a number of us may be having sticker shock as we look at the increased value in our homes and what that means. However, we follow TABOR, Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and if we go over a certain cap related to TABOR, those dollars that other counties that no longer have that TABOR cap in place, they reinvest those dollars in services and programs for our community, roads, public safety, and more. We return those dollars to you. But one thing that I would recommend, based on a formula, what I would recommend is appealing to our county assessor, Scott Kersgaard. He would be more than happy to talk with you and see if there's a way to work through those issues. Kim and Don, I don't know if you might have an additional thought in response to the question on the table right now.
So this is Kim Sorrells, and I think that the caller was asking about a commitment with regard to tax increases. And unfortunately, we are not in a position to make any commitments because the way it works is the taxes are assessed based on the property value, and as Commissioner Dahlkemper was explaining, it's based on a very complex, TABOR as well as the Gallagher impact how properties are assessed in the state, and then you take that and you apply the mill levy. We are not allowed to increase the mill levy without voter approval. So that is something that you can have safety and security in, that the commissioners aren't just increasing your taxes, because if they were going to try to modify the mill levy, we have to go to a vote, and you have to have voter approval to do that. That's the best comfort that we could give you at this point in terms of whether it could be increased. As property values increase and you apply the mill levy to it, you're going to have an increased tax value. I hope that helps.
Yes. That's great. If I could, this is Don Davis, the county manager. If I could just add one more thing to this, the assessor appeal period goes from May 1st to June 1st. And I realize you're talking about your tax bill, but it is definitely tied to the assessor's recent letters that went out that, that identified the new value for the property based on their study of the area and so forth. There is, if you go to the jeffco.us/assessor website, you will see all directions that can be used to review your appeal time and also submit an online appeal. So I would encourage you to visit that website. And there's also an opportunity to submit questions to the assessor to ask for more information.
All right, let's go to Matt next. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, this evening. Yes, I have a budget-related question. Are you able to hear me, by the way?
We are. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, well, I did attend one of your meetings in, I believe it was late 2019 as well as early 2020 regarding spending. I also noted that even though we were running into deficit issues, that we had, or that the county had also delivered refunds out because of the complexity in our spending calculations. I would like, the funding that has just been received as a result of the two recent federal laws, it seems more as though it's a reprieve from the downward spiral we had been having I would like to know if there is any plan to resolve that, because there was no measure brought up for 2020, nor probably 2021, perhaps something for 2022 regarding tying to population growth, such as most counties in Colorado as well as the state of Colorado utilize. Thank you.
All right, Matt, thank you. This is Don Davis again, the county manager. I appreciate your question and your time here tonight to be with us. As you know, TABOR is a very complex formula, and while you've tied it to population, the tie to the TABOR cap is actually at the county level is related to new construction and not to our population growth. So that kind of changes the equation a little bit at the county level. As you also probably know, we did bring a ballot initiative to the table in 2019, and the voters sounded off pretty clearly that they did not support that ballot initiative. That being said, as a county, we are always looking at the near and long term, and so we're examining all possibilities. I'm not saying that it's not possible. At the same time, I'm not saying that we actually have a formal plan in place because, like you said, the funds that we received from the federal government and that we will receive over the next couple of years does provide a slight reprieve. It also will affect our TABOR limits because any underspend that is a result of decrease in spending in certain things actually will have the ratchet down effect on the TABOR. So we are looking and analyzing very closely the effects in the long-term budget as we, continue to analyze services versus revenue. And at some point in the future, just like we had a couple of years ago, we've got to kind of answer the mail. And we've been doing our best to identify cuts and reductions in our budget and our services that may be not essential or designated as such. And so we'll continue to do those evaluations and look at it in the future and keep all things on the table. So I really appreciate your question and your interest, and please stay informed and stay plugged in. As you know, OpenGov is a portal on our website that allows for transparency and for a review for a budget. We've also formed a new budget advisory committee that we're utilizing to integrate with the community, our budget issues and concerns, and to get, quite frankly, to get input from the community on our way forward. So thanks again, and really appreciate your time tonight.
Don, thank you very much. We just have a couple minutes left. Commissioner Dahlkemper, do you have any closing remarks?
I do. Thanks so much, Roger. And a huge thank you to everyone listening tonight and calling in with questions, sharing your perspective on issues affecting the county. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. As you know, Jeffco has a long tradition of working together to care for one another, and we will continue to navigate COVID response and recovery together. We had a lot of conversation about that issue tonight, and we especially want to thank you, our community, for doing your part. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Kerr next. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Dahlkemper, and thank you all for staying on the call with us tonight. If your question has not been asked or answered at this point, we do have some options coming up in just a moment. Just one thing on a personal level, I'd like to ask everyone to please drive carefully. We did have 2 cycling fatalities this weekend in Jefferson County, and that's too many. So if you'd like more information on any of the topics we talked about tonight or have more questions, please visit our website at www.jeffco.us. And Commissioner Kraft-Tharp, any final thoughts?
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr. So if we didn't get to your question tonight, please leave us a voice message. And at the end of this call, you'll hear a recorded message, and then you can leave your comment or your question after the tone. Someone from the team will get back to you. Roger.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners. Again, we're sorry if we didn't get to your question tonight, but as the Commissioner just mentioned, you can still leave us a message at the end of the call. Just stay on the line and wait for the tone. Stay safe and stay healthy, and have a good evening. Good night.